What is going on, everybody? Yes, we gotta change the game and change some of those players in that intro around. I promise you, before October 7th, we will do that. Today, we are doing a part one of 3-part Sixers season preview. Joining me, he is Sean Bernard at Sean_Bernard1 on X. What's going on, man? It's been a minute.
Feels good to be talking some Sixers again. And we got some good faces and names to be added to that intro now. So I'm excited about this team. I'm ready to dive into it, and very excited for everything that is in store for this season.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into this thing. Tonight, we're covering the starting lineup. We're talking about what they bring to the roster, what areas we want to see them improve upon, and expectations, predictions heading into 2024, 2025. There is our, I always have to have a Google sheet in doing this stuff as we track along and get ready for the season. Let's lead off with our man, Tyrese freaking Maxey. And what a season it was. Tyrese Maxey averaged 25.9 points per game last year, shooting 45% from the field, 37% from three. Developed a really nice two-man chemistry with Embiid. Learned how to recreate that pocket pass through a free throw line jumper that Harden and Embiid looked so good at last year. His efficiency dropped as expected due to a more primary offensive role, but dude, he was incredible. His scoring increased. He was also terrific in the playoffs, averaging nearly 30 points, nearly 7 assists, and 5 boards. Dude, what can we expect from Tyrese Maxey this season? Just what does he bring to the roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to have expectations through the roof, and this dude has just skyrocketed through everything we could have possibly put in front of him year in and year out at this point. As far as areas to improve for him, I guess I would point to playmaking still. I know he took a significant leap last year, over 6 assists per game, which was a career high. But when looking at the Sixers roster, and we can see the starting 5 right on the screen here, there's still not a true point guard. And I understand that in today's NBA, that's becoming a, less and less common around rosters around the league. But there's still got to be somebody to set the table. So if Tyrese Maxey can grow into that guy and start becoming more of kind of a true point guard mold, I think that's probably the best route for both him individually and for the Sixers team.
That's a good one. Playmaking is a big one. I would like to see him add a little more polish to his overall game. I think he still needs to learn how to make an extra pass. I think this season more than ever, like they have shooters and wings all around him and Embiid. So setting up Paul George and even setting up other shooters like Eric Gordon in that weak side corner, that would be nice to see. Like the best thing about Tyrese Maxey, like when we talk about like areas to improve, like he's always proving me wrong, for better. You know what I mean? Like I think it's definitely in his bag to improve as a playmaker, improve as a passer, maybe improve a little bit in that mid-range game. I don't know if like that's going to be like kind of like the bag for Paul George. But really I want to see him improve as a legit number 2 option. So yeah, maybe as a defender. Any thoughts on him as a defender? Like we've seen him add bulk. We know he's got elite foot speed. We know he's got above average defensive IQ. Holding up better on switches in the playoffs. That's also something I kind of want to see him improve. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like he exceeded my expectations for how much he grew in that last year as well. So I think that's fair to continue holding him that. By nature, he's a 6'3" guard, that there's going to be some matchups that he probably just can't fully handle in the way that we would hope for if he was, cut from more of the wing archetype of player or size frame there. But the bottom line is I really liked what I saw from him defensively last year. So I'm encouraged that continues, but definitely can't hurt to continue to get better and better. So don't mind having it on there.
Yeah. And when we get to season expectations, I really want him. It's probably a pipe dream, but I really want to see him develop into a capable number 1 scorer.
Yeah.
That's really the best case scenario for the Sixers. He's Paul George playing more of a 3-and-D role, Embiid falling into that number 2, focusing more on rebounds and defense. Will Joel Embiid take a backseat to Tyrese Maxey? Could Maxey become an MVP candidate this year? I'm not so sure about that, but like I said before, he proves me wrong every single season. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I'm looking for is I don't want Tyrese Maxey to be blinking at the moment. That I want him to walk in there like he's got some stuff to him in the way that he does. That he shouldn't be deferring to Paul George and Joel Embiid just because of the names that they are. That I want him to look at these guys in the eyes as equal. So that's certainly in something that I'm looking for. I don't want him just deferring to these guys. That he's every bit the talent. He's every bit the all-star. He's proven himself at the NBA level. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on. I also would like a little bit more off-ball motion. That we know how fast this guy is. If we can start running him off pin downs and getting him moving, that's something that I think they could really look to utilize. So in the off ball settings, maybe a little more creativity in that with year 2 of Nick Nurse is something that I would love to see.
Switchability. Cool. We are doing this on the fly. Guys, if you're watching us live, comment with us. Let us know if we miss anything. Let's go to Kelly Oubre and what he brings to the roster. Signed a 2-year, $16 million contract. I love me some Kelly Oubre. I want to lead off with that, but I do have some kind of concerns we'll get to in just a little bit. But absolutely a bargain for a player who was probably the biggest surprise of the 2024 season. Oubre was not just productive, but he was a vital component to the identity of the 2024 Sixers. The scoring production was essential, but so was his athleticism, the energy, the cuts to the basket, the defense. He was the feel-good story of last year, Sean. And however, this year he's on a new contract. Expectations might get a little higher, but I think for the better, because I think he's going to be in a better role. What are your thoughts on what he brings to the roster and areas to improve?
Yeah, there's certainly a part of me that is a little worried the shoe may fall and the honeymoon period of Kelly Oubre is over. But the bottom line is there's also the other part of me that thinks maybe he bought into this is how I play winning basketball. That I do think that there is truly something to like this was not a situation where you're on a losing team asked to just do whatever. There was a clear defined role for Kelly Oubre, and I want that to be the exact same case this season. As far as like a specific area to improve, I know it's a bit of a pipe dream at this point in his career, but shooting's front and center for me.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the most confident shooter that we've seen, and it feels like he thinks everyone's going in. But the bottom line is, through his career, he's been a 32.7% three-point shooter, shot just 31.1% from three last year. For a roster that needs as much spacing as it can possibly get, that's just got to be a notch better than that. That's a below average three-point shooter by NBA standards there. He does get hot, and it feels like he's a better shooter than that. So I guess I give him a little bit of props for it. But the bottom line is you got to be a little bit better than those numbers. So I hope that happens this season.
I'm adding shooting twice.
I like it.
Less has always been more for Kelly Oubre. And this year, his primary role on offense will be to knock down spot up threes. So for me, about Kelly Oubre, it's about quantity, not quality, if that makes, or quality, not quantity, if that makes sense. Like I want to see him play a more defined role because we saw like last year when Embiid went down, man, his efficiency, tanked.
Yeah.
And he played a role that we don't really want him to see play in 2025. So shooting is going to be massive for this guy. I absolutely love Kelly Oubre for all the good and for all the bad. Let's get to our expectations, man. What do you got?
I'll say like I kind of touched on it with the role, but I guess more of what I mean by that is the continued commitment defensively. That's just been far and away levels of what I didn't expect from Kelly and what really has opened my eyes. So that commitment to being like a true perimeter defender to an extent that this team needs it, and also just keep the game simple. That he's at his best when Kelly's a little bit sort of like Nick Castellanos with the Phillies, where it's like don't let him be overthinking and trying to calculate there. Just react. First thing that goes through your mind. For Kelly Oubre, that's typically a straight line to the basket and then dunk the basketball. When he's doing those things, when he's thinking quick, he's not dribbling on the perimeter doing too much. That's when we start to see the bad Kelly Oubre. So be decisive and play quick would probably be my advice to him.
Can I talk a little negative about Kelly Oubre?
Sure, let's have it.
All right. I love the chaos he brings, but I do think in some respect that we overvalue Kelly Oubre, especially his fit on this roster. Like the athleticism, the aggressiveness, the defense, the fit was such a breath of fresh air last year.
Yeah.
Especially when you compare him to like previous role players like a Danny Green or a PJ Tucker. And, he was awesome. He was a fun player, but like, even when he's playing at a very high level, he still doesn't dribble well. He still, struggles to make a decent pass. I love Kelly Oubre again. I'm going to say that just one more time for the third time. But like, if there's a trade out there, like he's probably the first player to go in a package based on what other pieces they got on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The KJ Martin's going to be like the financial option there, and that's going to be
With
like
KJ Martin,
yeah, the likely one there. It wouldn't shock me. And honestly, even when thinking about the construct of this Sixers team, like we obviously have what we assume to be the starting five on the screen here. I'm pretty confident that in the negotiations with Kelly, there was some sort of either handshake deal or just spoken out there if he wants to be a starter. I think when really thinking about what's best for this Sixers team, there's going to be a real argument to be made at some point that Eric Gordon should be that starting 2-guard role and that Oubre is going to be a 6-man off the bench type. I do think that there's something to when thinking about last year, when you brought a little bit of jolt of energy or a spark off the bench in the game, I think that does better suit Kelly in the long run. So it wouldn't shock me if throughout the season there's kind of some parts changing with that. But I do hear you on all those concerns and think those are completely legitimate.
All right. So for Kelly Oubre, we're going areas to improve: shooting, better defense, and more consistency. Let's roll on to Paul George, the prize of the offseason. What he brings to the roster, still one of the best jump shooters in the NBA, especially at that size. He's not an elite defender anymore, but he's still a guy that can comfortably defend 1 through 4 and not really get picked on that much. He's smooth off the dribble. And, while his passing vision is somewhat limited, he still knows how to dump off passes to big men, which makes him a really intriguing fit with Joel Embiid. Areas to improve and expectations for Paul George, Sean.
Yeah, for expectations, and I guess kind of a little bit of both here. Number one, just be you, man. Like the Sixers paid for Paul George, they want Paul George. Just be exactly as marketed as advertised. And what I think is most appealing to me of Paul George playing next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey is you take out all the areas of game in which he was kind of asked to do too much in separate situations with the Clippers, with the Pacers, with the Thunder. The stuff that were his shortcomings, he no longer needs to do. That just play within yourself, keep it basic, and he can be terrific as either the second or third tier option, however you want to phrase it, with Maxey and Paul George. And frankly, I think there's going to be nights where it changes between the three of those guys for who is the leading scorer, all those type of things. He kind of is just going to be this like true 3-and-D type archetype of player with a little bit plus to him. Just be exactly as advertised, shoot the shots that you know that you're good at, and just be Paul George, man. That's really what I'm looking for.
3-and-D plus. I absolutely love that. That sounds perfect. I agree. That's what I want to see. Maybe I would like to see him improve as a playmaker. I'm going to add that in my areas to improve here for Paul George. Playmaker. There's some flashes of it. I'm also a little concerned about his age and his defense. Could it kind of decline? Based on his age and his workload and the regular season and stuff. That's where I really want to see him kind of find his role on this team. When you look at what I want to see this year, man, I want to see this guy kind of turn into a versatile defender. Because, like, when you think about it, big picture-wise, especially when paired with a Caleb Martin and a Kelly Oubre with Embiid protecting the rim, man, that's going to make the Sixers such a difficult out in the playoffs. So it's kind of like Kelly Oubre, like less is more, like 18 to 19 points, where he's just giving you a lot of things, like the Swiss Army knife of this starting lineup.
Yeah, and I think for the defense conversation here, like there was a point in time in which Paul George was a terrific defender. I do think those days are many years behind us at this point. I don't think we should expect that to be the case. But what I do want to expect to be the case is when there are the matchups like with the Boston Celtics, where you're talking about the Jason Tatums and Jaylen Browns of the world. You just have to be able to go look them eye for eye and play those type of matchups. So I guess like a true wing defender, which the Sixers really have not had pretty much at all during the Joel Embiid era. If he can just be that for those type of players that really run the league at this point, that's something that I would really like to see from Paul George.
What's your gut feeling? Let's say 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Does Paul George be that closer for the Sixers? Who has the ball in his hands?
I wouldn't say that. I still think it's between Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey for
Okay.
like the true closer type conversation. I do think like at worst for me, we're paying for like a really high level shooter as kind of a catch and shoot guy that can do more, that he still can create off the dribble a little bit. He still can go off that. I don't think I'm relying on him as kind of this killer instinct type guy ready to take the final shot. I'm more looking at him as kind of the bridge between Maxey and Embiid to be kind of the true trio that they need to be.
Let's say. All right, let's do that.
I like
All
it.
right, let's roll on to Caleb. Oh, we got a comment here. Checking into the Heartbreak Hotel. Come on, man. I'm excited for the Sixers, man. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this season, especially if the pieces come together. Steve says, I cannot wait to be sold and all in on PG after he goes off in a game early on in the season and get mad at myself. Nick says, Caleb Martin expectations, let it fly. Absolutely. Marshawn says, I'm here for it, Dibes. I'm in on the Sixers. I think they had a terrific offseason. I think I'm still kicking myself that we're finally going to get a squad of wings and length surrounding Maxey and Embiid. I feel like we've been pounding the table for this forever, and we finally got it, Sean. Like, what's your take?
Yeah, and for Caleb Martin specifically, I think he's going to be like what a lot of people think Kelly Oubre is to an extent. That he is that dog. He is that guy that's going to get under people's skin. He is going to be competitive. And I think he's just kind of a more well-rounded, better overall basketball player than Kelly Oubre there. It's also interesting when kind of comparing their shooting splits. Like I mentioned that Oubre was a guy that at the top of my list for needing to be a better three-point shooter. Martin is that he's a 35.7% three-point shooter for his career, was 34.9% last year. He did shoot over 40% in one season with the Heat, his first season there. He comes way more streaky with it. When you look at kind of the splits of it, is there will be like a 2-week period where this guy is shooting 50% plus from three, and then there will also be those down periods. So he certainly falls in that like streaky shooter type category there. I don't think the Sixers need him to be all of that. But I think for me personally, I'm looking at him as to be their top perimeter defender. That's probably my number one hope for Caleb Martin. Be the guy that's ready to get under skin, compete with all these opposing wings. As much as like I hope that Paul George can overall step up into that. If this ends up on Caleb Martin's plate, I have no issue with that. And I think honestly, he's going to be very capable of handling that business.
Yeah. There's like no question in my mind, dude. Like this was my favorite signing this offseason.
He rocks. Yeah.
I was so ecstatic when they brought him in, like Paul George, Eric Gordon. They were fun signings, but man, Caleb Martin is exactly what I feel like you nailed it. Like I feel like he's going to be Kelly Oubre plus.
Yeah.
He's a really good athlete, not as good of an athlete as Kelly Oubre, but really good going downhill. And I think he's a great fit with Tyrese Maxey. I think he's an underrated ball handler, a switchable defender like Oubre, who I don't think will get overwhelmed defending the 1 through 4 spots. When it comes to improvements, like know your role. Like
yeah.
I think he's not a creator, and that's okay. This is a team that has a lot of creators, and I just want to see him be a very good spot up shooter. I want to see him be accurate from the perimeter, but also don't hesitate from the perimeter. Like we are coming from Tobias Harris and guys like that will pump fake into oblivion. Like for me, areas to improve. I'm gonna put in expectations. Do not hesitate.
Yeah.
Like I want him to just let it rip, man. That's my expectation.
I think he will too. And the other part that I'll note here, like I think it was appealing to Caleb Martin to like join the structure of the Sixers. Like there were extents with that Miami Heat team where there just straight up was too much on his plate for who he is as a player. Like there were stretches here where he was legitimately like the second option on the team because of injuries or because of Jimmy Butler nonsense or whatever the case may be. Tyler Hero in and out of things. There was a lot on Caleb Martin's plate in a way that I don't think was best for him as a basketball player. And I think it's going to be helpful to him to have the Tyrese Maxeys and Paul George and Joel Embiid's to rely on. Like there's a clear framework of this team. And I'll also say that I did have a chance to speak with him for a couple minutes out in Vegas. The dude's cool, man. Like he spoke very openly. Like I've always loved coming and playing in Philly. I'm very excited to be there. Like he was like really cool with things that I was like, this dude just gets it straight up. So I think he's going to fit in.
Did you ask him any cool questions, like his favorite movie or anything like that?
Not to him. I didn't even have like a professional interview here. This was literally on like a casino floor that we saw when I was just like, yo, man, like, what's up? So we kind of just normal conversation. But I did get Jared McCain with one of those.
What did he say? Like 50
Uh,
First Dates or something?
Yeah. 50 First Dates was his movie he can't live without.
That's hilarious. I don't get me wrong, it's an amazing movie, but like, what are we doing?
I
Anyway.
even offered movie or song. I let him take the direction.
That's so interesting. He went with that Stanley movie. Marshawn says one of the Phillies, Eagles, or Sixers are going to win us a chip in the next
This
2
year.
years. I mean, Phillies are getting ready. What's up, Mitch? What's going on? Steve says I'm all in. Cannot wait for the Sixers. Still wish we drafted Dalton Connect. Don't like Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, and KJ Martin. However, I love Caleb Martin, PJ, Reggie Jackson, Drummond, and the fact we didn't trade Ricky Council. Amen. B+ for Morey this offseason. Where were you and what were you doing when you found out Caleb Martin turned down more money to sign with the Sixers? Jesus, I don't even remember. This whole summer just meshes together. I didn't believe it at the moment. Like he was. You could go back to previous Party on Broads when we were talking about free agency and great fit, because I mean he's a very good shooter from the perimeter, and when you look at Paul George and Maxey and Joe, he's going to get a lot of open looks. I feel like his efficiency is going to skyrocket on this team. Just an underrated sign, kind of not dissimilar to Kelly Oubre last offseason for the Sixers. He's a guy that can do a lot of the little things, and I just expect Caleb Martin to truly be that anti-Tobias Harris. Just keep the ball moving, play up to the speed of the game from the wing. And I love the fact that we're kind of modernizing the Sixers lineup with 4 wings and roll it, man. It's going to be exciting. I don't remember where I was with the signing, but it was a great signing.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about him in kind of the lead up a lot, that we looked at like Caleb Martin is kind of a Paul George backup plan. Like the fact that it's both of them is pretty insane here. I will add, I've thought of one more area to improve here. Entry passing for Caleb Martin here. I think in a lot of regards, fair or unfair to him, like that Nico Batum role of making the primary pass to Joel Embiid, those post-entry passes, it needs to be filled from somebody. I don't know if that's necessarily like Caleb Martin's bag or, something that he's really comfortable with. But I do think when kind of looking at each of these guys, it certainly is not going to be Kelly Oubre. Joel Embiid can't pass to himself. Paul George, there's been questions about the passing. And I do think like Maxey specifically is way better in sort of the pick and roll opportunities or when he's going off movement. If Caleb Martin can be comfortable making those entry passes from the 3-point line, I think that would be huge for the Sixers team. So I would love to see it, even if it is a bit more of a pipe dream.
That's a really good one. Batum was so good at that inside out game with Embiid. So underrated. I didn't think about that. That's a great one. I added more volume from 3. How about rebounding? Like, do you expect him to be the 4?
I mean, he's certainly undersized. He measures in at 6'5". Looking at his rebounding numbers, 4.4 last year, 4.8 the year before, which was a career high for him. The playoff numbers are 5.4, the highest that he got to. So it's not like he's known for pulling him down from like the stat standpoint. That is a concern of mine. That is where when we have the Gershon Yabusele conversation, that I'm very intrigued about how he fits into this puzzle and him being a part of it. I mean, in the end, like I think this is a Joel Embiid conversation, and we'll get to him in a second. That at the end of the day, for all the things that you do great, somebody's got to rebound the basketball, and it basically has got to be you. So as much as I would love for Martin to take on the responsibility, I don't think it's quite fair to put it on his plate, and don't know if I fully expect him to be like a I guess super plus rebounder.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's gonna be that's the joy of having an Oubre and a Martin.
Yeah,
guys that can be kind of thrown in wherever. And that who knows if Paul George is the 4? It doesn't really matter. They're gonna fit this team best around Maxey and Embiid. That's really all it is. Marshawn says in a summer of news, I was late on the Caleb signing. I don't think Caleb was going to come here since the Heat could have. I mean, the deal was great. It was 4 years, right? Like they got him locked in for 4, or the last year was like a player option or something. Like that.
There's definitely some sort of player option type thing on it. I'm pulling up the exact details now, but I believe it is 3-year. It looks like 3-year and a player option that it is. Yeah. So 3-year, he's making 8.1 million this year, 8.5 next, 8.9. The most is 9.3. That's great value for a guy like him.
Crazy, man. Crazy. I thought for sure he was out of our price range as well.
Yeah.
What grade would I give Daryl Morey? I think he's a solid A-. I would go A-. It's one last ride, man. I give credit to Daryl Morey for having his vision and landing it.
Yeah.
And you could go back to other shows in the past. I was not confident he could do it, and he got some true fits. Caleb Martin played the 2 guard mostly for Miami. Can't lie, I don't love him at the 4. I worry when we go up against a guy like Josh Hart and Aaron Gordon. Yeah, but how often does that happen? You know what I mean? Like, there's how many true 4s are out there in the NBA anymore? Like,
Josh Hart,
I think it's less of a problem than it really is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, Josh Hart is a 1 of 1. There's only one player that is like that is 6'5" and rebounds like 10 plus rebounds a game the way that he does. So I hear you. It's definitely a legitimate concern that the rebounding is an issue here. I'm gonna keep buying some Yabusele stock because I do believe that guy could be like the solution to it. I think there might be lineups where it's best for him to be like the full-time power forward, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah. We'll get to him on the next show. We're going to do starters, and then we're going to do specialists, and then we're going to do kind of the backups, like the two-way guys in front. That's like my wheelhouse. But Marshawn says Joel, areas to improve, not falling so much, not doing backboard pass dunks. Oh my God, don't eat Chick-fil-A's before games.
Wow,
that's amazing. A- for Marshawn as well. Yeah. I agree. We'll get to McCain eventually. I agree. I was underwhelmed by Jared McCain during the summer league. Let's get into our final dude. Of course, it is Joel Embiid. I thought, even though the Sixers lost to the Knicks, man, I thought there was real progress there. He was dealing with injuries, multiple injuries, but he still averaged 33 points, 10.8 boards, 5.7 assists, 1.5 blocks, 1.2 steals, shooting nearly 60% true shooting percentage, man. What are some of your areas to improve for Joel Embiid?
Yeah, this is one that I think is kind of an interesting conversation here. The number one that I want to lead off with is lower usage rate. That through his career, 32% is the lowest that he's ever recorded for a season. He's been top 6 in usage rate every single season that he's been in the NBA. There's no longer a need for that, my guy. And I understand this is a two-way street here, that for starters, the Sixers have needed him to be this dominant number 1 MVP candidate. They now don't quite need you to be that. There are guys that you can have that responsibility. You can lean on the Paul Georges, the Tyrese Maxeys that are on this roster. And to be perfectly honest, like, I think that he's ready for that. Like, there's a point in every athlete's career where you're still kind of in your physical prime, but you hit like your mental prime, where you now get the game more. You understand how things work. You can think it. LeBron's a clear example of a guy who has hit that period and kind of beats people with his mind more so than his body at this point, even though he's still a freak athlete. I want Joel to fully kind of sit in that zone where he can now just think through the game and beat people with his mind in a way where it's not so hard for him. That, like, Daryl Morey did the hard work by putting this team together. It's now on Joel Embiid to lean on that and benefit from that. So scale back the usage is something that I'm really looking to see this year.
Yeah, amen. Like, will he accept that, though? That's the question. And I think he will. I truly do. More defense, more rebounding. Don't throw your body around. Like, get to the 3rd week of April healthy, man. That's why I added get to that playoffs healthy. I said no more individual awards. Who cares about the regular season? Sorry, season ticket holders. I'm going to say it. I don't give a damn. Yeah. Like, just keep this man healthy. That's really at the end of the day, all that matters. Like, he cannot be sidelined. He cannot be dealing with multiple injuries. Any other? I mean, those are pretty much the given areas to improve. My expectations, man, like, it's really not on him. For me, when it comes to Embiid, yeah, there's some late game issues for sure in Embiid's history, but will this be the season he doesn't get let down by his teammates? Yeah. Like, it's been historic in playoff games where key players go from being a plus minus plus 10 or better. You look at LeBron, you look at Kevin Durant, you look at Jason Tatum, Giannis, Jokic. They're a combined 247 and 0.
Wow.
247 and 0. You look at Steph Curry, he's 68 and 2. Luka Doncic is 16 and 1. Even Devin Booker is 14 and 1.
Wow.
Do you know how many times this happened to Embiid and what his record is?
What's that?
19 and 5.
Wow. That's
the Sixers are 1 and 18 when Embiid is in -2 or worse. Like, they don't win if he sucks. Like, if he's out there struggling, they do not win. And you see other teams like Tatum and the Celtics, like, when is that going to be us, man? When is that going to be us? So my season expectation for Joel Embiid is more so on the chemistry and the identity of the team, but also on Nick Nurse.
Yeah. And by the way, I do see Nick shout me out in the comments here. What do you think of my grand plan here? Joel Embiid only plays games at the Wells Fargo Arena this year, or the Wells Fargo Center.
I'm down. I am 100. Like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's why they brought in Andre Drummond.
Get him a clean 42. Let Drummond take care of business on the road. I honestly think there's something to that.
Adem Bona.
Yeah.
I saw more. I thought he was arguably the biggest positive of the summer league. I think he can play. If he plays like 20 games this year, I'm good. I know at least he has a real NBA skill, and that is rim protection. Mm-hmm. And I even like his foot speed and defensive IQ is right there. So I'm good with that, Sean. I know my co-host Rob Lange would have major problems with that because he's obviously going to the games, but I don't care.
All the home games he'll be there for in my grand plan.
Oh, that's true. You're right. You're right.
So for Sixers, this is, I think you can do a little bit of both. You can still make the people happy, protect him. We can let all the road people complain about that. But if you establish that from the season start, I do think that there's something to that potentially working.
Yep. We have a Go Flyers comment.
Mitchkov season.
I expect Joel. Yeah, Mitchkov's going to be really fun. I expect Joel to be the finals MVP. In all seriousness, outside of being healthy, I need Joel to will this team in tight spots. I agree, no doubt. Joel should only play for the Camden Sixers. I have Bona down low. There, we already did that. Marshawn says, send me a T-shirt. I agree, Marshawn. You deserve one, man. The guy's like at every stream we do here. Expectations. We already did low usage rate, more individual. No more individual awards. Get to the playoffs healthy. How about
I want a career high in rebounding. How about that?
Love it.
That number, his last time, 13.6 rebounds per game is his career high. That was in 2018-19. So kind of a bit similar when thinking about the context of the team of obviously the trades happened midseason, but that's when it was the Jimmy Butler, the Tobias Harris here. So conceptually, that was kind of Embiid taking a bit of a step back. And you can even see that in like the scoring numbers as well, that he did regress a little bit that year. So maybe this is a mindset thing. I would like a career high in rebounds for Joel Embiid this year.
Yep. What do you think would be a good final expectation before we wrap this thing up?
I like Marshawn's down here. All NBA defense team. I would love if he just committed to that side of the floor, because to Joel, like there's so much on his plate that it's tough to critique him. But there's certainly those stretches of the game where he just kind of drifts through and isn't quite the rim protector that he's capable of. Now he turns it up a notch when it matters in the playoffs and in the final stretches of games, to the point where we know that it's in his bag, and I'm not critiquing him for it. But if he really focused on being one of the best defenders in the league, he can do it. So I would love to see that from him this year. And that goes into the same kind of conversation we're having about scaling back the usage on offense to allow for that to be possible.
Yeah, just like Tyrese Maxey. Like, I feel like Embiid's such a cerebral player that can pick up things so fast.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind, like, if he wanted to, I think so. Maybe I'm crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure he could be like top 3 in rebounding and literally be the best defensive player. I mean, he already is, but he just gets crapped on by the NBA. I like it a lot. Is it crazy how he isn't all defense selection given how much he can? I agree. It's crazy, Marshawn. I never understood it. I never understood the hate he gets on defense. It's night and day.
Yeah, I think honestly people get distracted by like this dude has led the league in scoring for 3 consecutive years at this point, and that just kind of overshadows the fact that he is a very elite defender, far beyond what I think it gets expectation to. And I think that Rudy Gobert point's like terrific there. Like I've seen Joel move his feet on the perimeter far better than pretty much every big man in the league. Like he not as much now versus a little bit younger version of himself, but he's pretty special when he moves out on the perimeter like that. And you're right about kind of the cerebralness to it as well, that he thinks the game, he's able to call out stuff. You can hear him throughout a game kind of calling out different just plays that are being called, movements being had. So he does have it all if he wants to just leave it on the table this year.
All right, there it is, our first part of our Sixers season preview. Everything you need to know about the starting lineup. Next week, we'll get into specialists, which include guys like Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, Gershon Yabusele, Ricky Council for sure, Reggie Jackson, Kyle Lowry, those kind of dudes. And then the following week, we'll get into the mud a little bit. Guys like Jared McCain, KJ Martin. I mean, I don't really. How much do you expect from KJ Martin? Like, truthfully, like, do you expect how many minutes per game would you expect?
It wouldn't shock me if they make a conscious effort to showcase him through the first half of the year. So I'll say, like, I actually think we'll see him a lot more than a lot of people probably expect. I also think this year's team, roster wise, is probably built to benefit him a little bit more. I honestly, KJ Martin grew on me as last year went on, that he kind of found a stride in the way that figuring out how to play. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's kind of like a 15 to 20 minute per game guy, at least for the first half of the season.
Yeah, I like him in small ball lineups. There's definitely been some flashes. Sean, where can we find you, man? I'm not even going to begin to try and explain how many things you've got your toes dipped into, man. You're everywhere. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been busy these days, but you guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. Check out Sixers Digest and Phillies Digest as far as some YouTube content that I've been pumping out on there. Still got things rolling over at PickSwap Media a little bit and doing as well as Fox Sports The Gambler. So you can catch me on the air 11 to 1 every Saturday and throughout the week with Sean Brace as well, doing a bunch of their producing these days. And you can also check out my work on DraftKings Network. Did drop a Sixers preview on there, talking some in-depth stuff. So I've been doing a lot of kind of fantasy football stuff for them. I'll be cranking things up once NBA season's fully here for them. So looking forward to that, but a lot of written content coming out on there.
He does it all at Sean_Bernard1. One of the best Sixers follows there is on X. Go check out Sixers Digest too, man. I love your videos, man. They are so good, dude.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. He is Sean. I am Daz. We'll catch you next week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay awesome.